a first year medical student and a member of PACademia. Today I'll be discussing the topic clearance and some of the harder topics like the equations because it can be a difficult concept to some people. So let's get started. The first concept that I want to discuss here is the steady state concentration. What you need to understand is we as humans, we want to attain this. We want to reach the steady state concentration. And what does this mean is basically when the rate in equals to the rate out. So let's say I take a 100 milligram drug. I want, this is taken in, okay, it's just a drug. I want the same amount to be excreted, so 100 milligram, to be also excreted out. Okay, this is what it means. So it's just a constant concentration. As we can see here, this is my constant concentration, where how much I'm giving in is the same how much is leaving. This is what you see. The steady state will look something like this. It's the same thing where how much is given in, how much I'm taking in is the same of how much is leaving. Okay? But if this is the steady state concentration, what about these? This is basically when we try to attain the steady state. We mentioned we are trying to reach to the steady state. This is me trying to reach to the steady state. We see sometimes there's certain drugs where the doctor, for example, mentions that you have to take it, let's say, every 3 hours, for instance. This is just an example. Every 12 hours, okay? It doesn't matter. But every certain amount of time, you need to retake the same drug. And the reason is because we want to attain this. For instance, let's say, imagine what this is like 6 hours, okay? So here they're telling you every 6 hours, okay? In this case, every 6 hours you need to take the drug. So here I took the drug at the first hour, and then after 6 hours I'm supposed to take the other drug here. Because if I didn't, it will end up reaching to 0 plasma concentration right here. Here it's reached a specific concentration of the plasma, right? If I didn't take it every 6 hours, it will reach down, to 0 concentration of plasma. And then when I take another one, it will be the same thing. And there's no effect, okay? In the steady state concentration, this is where I'm usually going to be having my minimum effective concentration and my minimum toxic concentration. So this is the best thing that I want right here, because it's the therapeutic window or range, right? This is where I'm actually going to be having the effect of the drug. So that's why we have the idea of after every this much amount of hour is what this we mentioned. This is what we're trying to reach. What this is my steady state. So this is my steady state, and this whole is reaching it. So let's say after 6 hours I took it, and then after another 6 hours I took another one, and that's what to prevent the concentration of the drug plasma to decrease. No, instead I'm actually causing it to increase. And you might be mentioned, okay, why can I not take just the drug instead of taking 100 every 6 hours? I can just take, for instance, like 300 at a go. But sometimes that's not possible because it can become toxic for the body. Or it depends on the patient. Sometimes they have some liver problems or kidney problems, right? It won't be possible. Sometimes to make the drug, I can't make 300 milligram in the drug. Maybe it will become too large for me to swallow, right? Because it's just 300 milligram compared to 100 milligram. I can't store it the same amount. It needs to be larger. So there's many different factors that prevents me from doing so. And this is the safest one. And we have been dependent on it for so long, okay? The main idea is I want you to understand the picture here, right here. That this right here where I'm having this graph right here where the rate in equals to rate out. This is my steady state concentration. So you need to know the steady state concentration is rate in equals to the rate out. Again, this is the same thing. Here you can see that the plasma drug concentration at the beginning was 100 milligram. Let's say I was given this 100 milligram drug. After some time, after let's say 4 hours, it will obviously start to decrease because now it's being used up and it's being metabolized and whatnot is being excreted. Instead of allowing it to reach to 0, what happens is after let's say 4 hours, I'm giving them another one. So now it's reaching. Again, it's decreasing, and then after another 4 hours, okay, I'll take another drug to reach what to try to reach my steady state concentration. So here I'm trying to reach the steady state concentration. I'm trying to reach. Whereas this here is my steady state concentration. Now what is the peak and the trough? This is basically the minimum effective concentration. This is minimum toxic concentration. Obviously I don't want to go over this, and I don't want to go below this, because they are what? They're bad. I want to always stay in the steady state concentration. That's why my body is what is trying to reach. That's why we're saying we always try to reach the steady state concentration. Okay, this is what we're trying to say. This is the whole point that I want you guys to understand, the reason behind it, and what exactly is steady state concentration. We mentioned what it's rate in equals to the rate out. طيب حلو, that's great. And as you can see here 100, for instance, at the beginning it reached the minimum toxic concentration, and now it will be able to decrease to what? 100. So how much I was given? 100. At the end 100 was rate out, and then I took another one. It reaches, boom, I take it like this. Okay, but before it wasn't like this. When I took one, it was different than the before. Here no, the same is happening. So this is why we mention it's a steady, because it's constant, because the rate in equals to the rate out. Okay, here they're mentioning that after several oral doses, usually it takes 4 to 5 half-lives in order to reach this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, around 5-ish. Okay, it depends. Now let's come to my topic, clearance. What is clearance? Clearance, here it mentions that estimates the amount of drug cleared from the body per unit of time, and it is the fixed volume of the blood cleared of the drug per unit time. Okay, what does it mean? It basically means how much blood I require to clear my drug. Let's look at this equation to make it much easier for us. So this equation is clearance equals to 0.693 over T half, which is basically what my constant. It is not important, but what I can see here is that VD is also there. What does VD has to do with any of this? Okay, let's look at it. First of all, I can tell that the VD and the clearance, the VD is on the numerator, meaning that they're directly proportional. Okay, meaning that if the VD increases, the clearance also increases. Okay, what does that mean? I'll tell you an example. We mentioned the clearance is how much blood is required to clear my drug, and the VD was what? VD is how much drug, so I have injected how much drug inside, and how much is actually going to be in my plasma. How much, or in other simpler words, you could say that how much of this drug is distributed throughout the whole body. This is what VD is. If you don't understand about the VD or you're confused about it, I have made another video about the VD, so do check it out to be more or have more clear understanding of this concept. Okay, because these are interconnected to each other. Now let's use a different concept here. Let's say I have a floor, and the floor is made of multiple tiles, correct? It's made of multiple tiles. So let's say the tiles here, okay, we're using some sort of code right now to make it much easier to understand. Let's say the tiles here are my tissues. Okay, T by T, tissues. Let's say that on the tiles it's dirty, my tiles is dirty. These red spots are the dirt. Let's say the dirt here is my drug. Hello, DD. Okay. Now my floor right here, or my tiles are dirty. I want to remove this dirt. I want to clean it. So I will start to use water. Let's say this one, I use only 1 bucket of water to clean this tile. In this case, the water right here is my blood, or my clearance, you could say. Okay, the water, this water, how much, what am I requiring, how much water am I requiring to remove this? So let's say water here is the clearance, or let's say the blood, because what clearance is how much blood is required, right, to clean this thing. Now here, let's say I have more dirt on every tiles. So now this, I mentioned only one example to make the code. Let's say my tiles are all dirty. So this means what? This means I will require more buckets of water. صح ولا لا? I will require more water. Okay, just imagine this is a bucket. More water to clean this drug because, this dirt, because this dirt is now everywhere. Can you see the correlation now? Can you see the correlation? Okay. Now let's decode this. So this means that more water, I'm saying this, more water is required to clean or clear the dirt away. Why? Because more, because what? Because it's distributed, let's say, over more tiles. Now let's decode it together. More water means more clearance or blood. صح? Is required to clear the dirt. What was dirt? The drug away, because distributed over more tissues. Are we able to see the idea here? I'm saying that because if I'm looking at it now, more clearance is required because to clear the drug, in this case is the dirt, because it's distributed over more tissues. Now I can understand how when the VD increases, the clearance also increases, because I require more water to clean the dirt, because the dirt is now over more tiles. So it means that I require more blood to clear out all of this drug, because the drug is now found all over my body. If the drug, the first example, which is this one, this example right here, this, if it was only this tile, right, this means that the dirt is only on this tile compared to the other one, compared to this. So this means that the VD is low. So I require only one bucket of water, or a low amount of blood to clear it away. Do you understand here the idea of the clearance and the VD? So here, not only is it the idea of how they're correlated, but also the same idea, because what? Because the VD is how much of this drug is distributed. VD is volume of distribution, صح? So how much of this drug is distributed throughout the whole body. The same idea, you can think about it as how much of this dirt is distributed or is found on the tiles. And the same way, clearance was what blood is required to clean or clear away this drug. The same way is correlated with the idea that I need water to clean or clear away this dirt. Okay, so always remember this example, how you will understand from this example the function of clearance, which is to remove or to clear away the drug, just like the water, to remove the dirt. And you will understand the function, or what VD means, which is how much of this drug is being distributed. And you will also understand the correlation, that because I will need more water to clean out the dirt, so I need more blood to clear out the drugs, which is exactly what this means. The amount of volume that is required to clear the drug, obviously per unit time. And from this, you understood the concept and you understood the equation. Now another, here they're just saying the same thing. Volume of blood is required to clear. So what is clearance? The volume of blood, how much blood I require to clear or clean, whatever you mention, if you're looking at the example of the tiles, to clear out the drug. The volume of the blood that contains the amount of the drug, and the units is this. Now another equation of the clearance is this. Clearance equals infusion rate divided by CS. Let's look at this. Infusion rate they mentioned, so clearance equals what? Infusion, this is the next equation, right? Infusion rate, or rate N, is basically the same thing, over the CSS. Now, CSS, or the constant state, the state of steady state concentration, was what? Rate N, can you see, equals to rate out. So now rate in equals to the rate out. Rate in is basically this. Okay. So what is rate out? Rate out is how much of this drug, I mentioned we have 100 milligram I was taking of this drug. It needs to be the same that is being given out. So how much I took of this drug, 100, the same amount needs to be removed. How? The thing is, rate n equals to CSS times clearance. That's what we're looking at right here. If we're looking at the diagram, if we remember the pyramid or whatever, right? The clearance is what? The clearance is basically the infusion rate, or let's say rate n equals to CSS. So this means rate n equals to clearance times CSS, and we know rate n equals to rate out. So this means rate out is basically this times this. This is what we're looking at, and it makes sense. How? Because the CSS is how much of this, like the CSS is basically the drug concentration, what inside my blood that is in the steady rate, but it's not out. So how can I make it out? By the clearance, which is what was clearance? The amount of the blood that is required to clear out the drug. I can't just say that the rate out is the clearance, because the clearance here is just the blood. So I require also the rate out is how much is the drug as well. I need to remove the drug. So in this case, what am I removing? The drug concentration in the blood, اللي هو CSS, concentration, steady state concentration. But I'm also, how am I removing it? With the help of the clearance, with the help of the blood, the volume of the blood that is required to clear out the drug. Do you understand? It makes sense, right? What rate out means? Rate out, how much is being removed? I took 100 milligram, how much is being removed? How much is being removed? The CSS, اللي هو the drug concentration in the blood at steady state, and which is what we are trying to achieve in my body. This is what I'm achieving, the CSS. So obviously it's the CSS times the clearance, because the clearance equals the blood, what? The amount of the blood that is required to clear out. So this is the actual equation. They just rearranged it to make clearance the subject, and then they just did it using the pyramid as we mentioned. They're just rearranging the thing. Okay? So this is what this equation also means. Alright, it makes sense. So here clearance was understood. What does it mention here? It says the clearance mostly occurs via liver or kidneys. Clearance was what we mentioned. We mentioned it's the blood that is required to clear out the drug. Clear out. So this also indicates the idea how it's correlated with the rate out. صح ولا لا? Okay, that's not the point. Point is, clearing out is like excretion. It's elimination. Who's doing this in my body? We know it's the liver and the kidneys, so it makes sense that the clearance is mostly happening in my kidneys or in my liver. Okay, no problem. How? They're explaining to you how there is liver and renal clearance. The liver clearance in the liver, this is where biotransformation is happening, but also the excretion is happening in the bile. And in the renal, اللي هو الكدني, we know the excretion is happening through the urine. They're just explaining to you how the clearance is happening here. Now, the thing that comes here, it says that sometimes in patients there is liver or kidney disease. When I have liver or kidney disease, this means that their function is not working. So the function is decreasing. Okay, the function is not working. What was their function? The excretion, the elimination. صح ولا لا? So excretion is now not working. This means my clearance will not work. The clearance will also decrease. This is what they're saying. The clearance will fall. Why? Because we mentioned the clearance is how much blood is required to clear out the drug, and the clearing out is happening through the liver and the kidneys. So now if the liver and the kidneys, the function is not working, the clearance also will decrease. Less amount of drug is out. Less. If less is going to be out, the drug concentration will increase or rise inside my body. Because if less is being excreted, more is going to be in my body. Obviously this can cause toxicity, right? And in this case I'll need to decrease my dose to prevent toxicity from happening. So this is pretty self-explanatory. Clearance It's the blood required to clear out the drug. Clearing out the drug is happening where? Mostly in the liver and the kidneys, and we mentioned the reason, because in the liver this is where the bile is happening, excretion through the bile, and then the clearance in the renal is going to be the excretion through the urine. And we mentioned in patients who this is not working, the function will decrease, the excretion will decrease, meaning that the clearance, or how much of this is being cleared out, how much of the drug is cleared out, is decreasing because the function is now not working, because they are not working. So this means that the toxicity will increase because more of the drug, if less is out, more is going to be inside my body. So because more is inside, the toxicity can occur. So now, in order to prevent the toxicity, I will try to decrease the dose to prevent it. Now here, what does it mention? Clearance can also calculate from VD. It's pretty self-explanatory from the equation. We mentioned clearance is 0.693 divided by T half times VD. So they are saying that I can also calculate clearance from the VD, and that I need the elimination constant. This is my elimination constant, so there's nothing new here. Implications: higher VD, higher clearance. We explained the example of the tiles, don't forget the example of the tiles. But also from the equation you can see that if the VD increases, the clearance increases, because this is on the numerator. Okay, the idea about numerators and denominators is more expressed and dived into in the video that I talked about in the VD video. I've made a video about the volume of distribution, which uses the same concepts of the numerator, the increase, and understanding the equations as well. So this is just an example. They're saying if let's say they have 10 grams per hour is removed, so the higher the VD, higher volume is holding the 10 grams, so higher clearance. So as the VD increases, the clearance also increases. This is the idea. Now calculating doses. Let's come to the doses. Clearance is now gone. Let's come to the doses. We have a maintenance dose and a loading dose. What does maintenance dose do? What does it mean? Just enough drug to replace what was eliminated. So I have 100 milligram. I keep using 100 milligram. It's just an example. Let's say 100 milligram. This is my rate in. How much is required to replace what has been lost? So let's say 100 milligram, and I have removed, let's say by excretion or by metabolism because of bioavailability, whatever it is. يعني, when you take the 100 milligram, it's not 100% sure that you're actually going to be using the 100 milligram. Some of it will be lost. Okay, so let's say at the end I have 70 milligram actually in my blood. So the maintenance dose will be what? Will be 30, because how much dose is required to replace what was eliminated? The eliminated was 30. 30 was eliminated. 100 minus 30 equals 70. So now maintenance dose is what? Is just replacing this to what? From the name maintain, to maintain the dosage that has been given at the beginning, to maintain this dosage. Okay, the loading dose is what? The loading dose is basically given when the time to steady state is very high. So we mentioned here, sometimes it will take us so much time in order to reach the steady state. This is my steady state, and this is the reaching. So here they're telling you the loading dose is when I have so much time, it's required for me so much time in order to reach the steady state. Okay, for instance here, let's say in order to reach, I need to take, let's say just an example, 3 pills in order to reach the steady state, and they tell you take the 3 pills every like 10 hours, and you're like, that's a lot of time, right? The loading dose is no, they will give you 2 pills or 3 pills, if it's safe, obviously, only if it's safe, at the same time. So instead of going through this whole step, what happens is I will be reaching right away, like I will jump like here. Instead of having it something like this, I will have it right away through one jump. So it's saving us more time. This is what the loading dose is. It's just to reach the steady state. أما maintenance dose, no, in order to maintain how much is being lost from yeah, how much is being lost, to replace what has been lost and to maintain the steady state. So the loading dose is to reach the steady state faster, and this is happening only when it takes very high, or it takes to make it more quickly to reach it. أما maintenance dose is what is when I'm trying to maintain, from the name maintain, the هذا steady state concentration. How? By replacing what has been lost. Now they're telling you when there is a kidney or a liver disease, the maintenance may fall. Why? What was maintenance again? When you're understanding the meaning of the definition, it will be easy. You will understand. So maintenance, we mentioned, maintenance was what? Maintenance was to replace what was eliminated. How much dose is required to replace what was eliminated? Who is doing the elimination? The kidney and the liver. صح ولا لا? The kidney and the liver, they are doing the elimination. If they are disease, if there's a disease or it's failure or something within that nature, this means that the function will decrease. Yes. What was their function? The elimination. طيب, if elimination is decreasing, maintenance will decrease too, because now less is being eliminated, so I require less drug in order to replace. If I have 100 milligram I took, and my kidney is working normally, and they eliminated, or my liver is working normally, they eliminated, let's say 70 milligram. What was the maintenance? Is to what? To replace what was eliminated. To replace what was eliminated. So here, how much was eliminated? 70 milligram. So my maintenance is 70 milligram. But if a patient has a kidney problem, they took 100 milligram. Instead, because their kidney is a problem, the function is a problem, the elimination will be problem. Now the elimination is decreasing, so I will be eliminating only 30 milligram. And what did we mention? We mentioned that the maintenance is the dose required to replace what was eliminated. What was eliminated? 30. I need to replace it. So what is the maintenance? It's 30. Which one? So is the maintenance decreasing or increasing? It's decreasing. It's pretty simple. It's really that simple. If you understand, it's maintenance dose is what? It's how much is required to replace what was eliminated. Who does the elimination? The liver or the kidney. If there's a problem with the liver or the kidney, what means the function will decrease? The function was excretion was below. Elimination is decreasing. If less of the drug is eliminated, I require, or I need less amount of drug to maintain this, because less is being eliminated. So here, this is what they're mentioning: less eliminated, so less dose is required or needs to be replaced. I need less maintenance to replace what was lost, because what was eliminated is decreasing, because my liver is not working. But يقول لك loading dose is unchanged. The loading dose won't change. Why? Because the loading dose is depending on the pill itself. It has nothing related to elimination, like in the maintenance is related to the elimination and the kidneys and stuff like that. It has nothing. The loading dose is related to the pills, just how much, and we mentioned the loading dose is determined, or it's when the time to reach the steady state is very high, and this is determined by the drug itself. Some drugs I require only few amount of concentration in order to reach. Let's say in this drug I only require 50 milligram in order to reach the steady state, whereas other drugs I require, let's say 150 milligram or 300 milligram to reach the steady state. So it's all dependent on my drug. So even if I have a liver disease, or if I don't have a liver or a kidney disease, if my organs are fine, the loading dose is still the same, because it is dependent on my drug, not on my liver or the kidney. Do you understand? So this is a main point that we need to understand. We need to understand what they mean, so that when there's any information that is about them, any in the questions, I understand. So here you understand that the maintenance dose changes if there's any problem, but the loading dose never changes. Loading never changes, because this is a characteristic of the drug. not the body. It has nothing to do with the body. Okay. Now this is a question. I mean, this is just explaining maintenance dose. What did we mention? Maintenance dose was how much what to replace. It is the amount of dose, the dosage that is required to replace what was eliminated. And elimination, the same thing. So rate in equals to the rate out. What was rate out? Do we remember? It was the clearance times the CSS. And we mentioned, we know that the maintenance is what? The maintenance is how much is required to replace what was eliminated. So this is rate out. It is essentially, maintenance dose is essentially that. Okay? And this we already discussed how it is. So they're just telling you maintenance dose is calculated in this way, because if it means how much dose is required to replace what was eliminated, I can look at how much is the rate out to see how much was removed, how much was excreted or eliminated, so that I'll just replace it. That's it. That's what they're saying. How can I know what was eliminated? If the maintenance dose is the amount of dose is required to replace what was eliminated, how can I know how much is eliminated? Through looking at the rate in equals to the rate out. When I look at the rate out, how much is being eliminated, I can just replace what was eliminated. That's the idea. That's exactly what the idea means. So they're saying this is how you calculate it. Now I mentioned about the bioavailability. This is pretty self-explanatory. The bioavailability, if it is less than 100, which is in the case of everything except for the IV. The IV is the only one that has a 100% bioavailability, which is basically I put 100 milligram and it is going to be 100 milligram the same inside of my blood vessel. Why? Because there is no absorption. This is we took this before, no absorption, right? So the 100 milligram is going to be staying the same because I'm inserting it directly to the blood. So obviously it will remain the same. Here they're just saying the maintenance dose is going to be how much is the target. So how much did I put? Divided by my dosage. Divided by my bioavailability. So how much did I take target dose divided by my bioavailability? Because the bioavailability will determine how much is removed as well, because it doesn't mean that because I put 100 milligram in, I took 100 milligram, it doesn't mean that I will eliminate also 100 milligram, because some of it might be metabolized by my first pass in the liver and stuff like this. So that's why it's also dependent on my bioavailability. Now the loading dose, they're telling you the loading dose, it means the target concentration. What was my target concentration? The CSS, صح? We mentioned the whole aim of the body was to reach the CSS, and we mentioned the loading dose was what to reach. So loading dose is the target concentration that I want to reach times the VD. And this also, it makes sense because we know the VD is also unchanged. Yani it's a characteristic for the drug and it never changes. The same way the loading dose also never changes. So it makes sense. It never changes because the VD also never changes, because it's a characteristics of this drug. Okay, so loading dose we mentioned is trying to make it faster to reach the CSS. So what is the amount of the CSS I want to reach? So the target concentration times the VD, depending on the VD of the drug. Some drugs, they have the ability to reach the body faster, so their VD is high, but some of them no, their VD is very low, so it doesn't have the ability to reach a concentration that is steady within the whole body. Okay, so this is self-explanatory as well. Loading dose is the ability to reach the steady state, but to reach the steady state it's also dependent on my VD, because some drugs will have different VDs, and depending on the VD, if the VD of mine is high, means that I can reach the steady state concentration easier. And this is just giving you an example. If I want to reach this steady state concentration, let's say if I want to reach this as 5, okay, and my VD of this drug is 10 liters, so you'll just multiply it together. That's exactly what they're trying to say. Okay, and again it's dependent of my bioavailability. So you just do the drug that you want to reach, the CSS, times the VD divided by my bioavailability. That's it. Okay, Because the bioavailability, if it is going to be high, it can decrease the VD, right? Because the bioavailability was what, how much it is in the blood. So the IV has the highest bioavailability because most of it will be in the blood. The IV is in the blood, يعني. So as we know, the VD, if it is in the blood, it will decrease. Again, if you are not familiar with the idea of VD, please watch the video because it will make it much understandable. The VD, right? So if it's mostly in the blood, the VD will decrease, but because it's the distribution, volume of distribution, how much is distributed. So if it's mostly in the blood, then it's not distributed really. Anyways, you don't have to confuse yourself with this. But this is just to make you understand the concepts, right? Okay. The key points, so now if I summarize the key points, volume of distribution is the amount that is injected divided by this. Again, if you haven't watched the volume of distribution video, do watch it. The clearance, we mentioned what is clearance. 0.6932 or 3 divided by t half. This was the Ke constant times the Vd, and we mentioned the idea of the Vd, how it's correlated with the clearance. Okay, maintenance dose, we mentioned what it is. Maintenance dose was the rate out, or how much is required to replace what was eliminated, and we mentioned what was eliminated is rate out, and rate out is basically what? Rate out is clearance times CSS, and we mentioned always divide by the bioavailability if it is not 100%. And the loading dose, we mentioned it is the CSS times the VD, obviously divided by the F. Now we can solve some of the questions. You can skip this part if you don't want, obviously, but here let's solve some of the questions to make sure that we understand. Pause the video, okay, solve it by yourself, and after this we can look on how the answers are, and we can solve it together, and you can check if you were correct or not. Okay, so first question. It says that Mr. Jones has 0 kidney function and is undergoing hemodialysis while awaiting a kidney transplant. So here I can tell that he has a kidney problem. He has a kidney problem, okay? Or the function is not working. The function of the kidney is not there. He takes this drug for type 2 diabetes, was previously stabilized. So they're saying when he was taking this drug, the kidney function was normal. And he took 500 milligram twice daily, orally. The plasma concentration at this dosage with normal kidney function was 1.4 milligram per liter. He has been on dialysis for 10 days, and they think that there's a toxicity of this drug. A blood sample now, which means when he has the kidney problem, is 4.2. So the idea is he has a kidney problem. Before he had a kidney problem, this was what the values were. But then after, because he has a kidney problem, this is the concentration. What is the question? What was the clearance of Mr. Jones while his kidney function was normal? So now I don't have to look at the kidney problem. They're saying what was the clearance when he was normal. So first, let's look about the clearance. Let's remember what were the clearance formulas. I will write them down. The clearance, we have 0.6932 divided by T half times VD. And another one was the clearance equals the rate in, or the infusion rate, divided by my CSS. I will look what are the values I have. That's the first thing that we need to understand. Why am I highlighting important things? To make it easier for me. Once I identified the clearance, I wrote down all the formulas that I know. Now I can check, do I have VD? No, I don't. But do I have the rate in? Yes, they mentioned that they took, Mr. Jones took 500 milligram twice. And the constant steady state, which is the plasma concentration, was held good. And I'm taking 1.41 and not 4.2. Why? Because they're asking for the normal, and this is with the normal kidney. They're trying to trick you in a bit. They're trying to see, can you identify which numbers are you choosing? Do you understand the question? So it's good that we highlight this. Okay, now after I write it down, I understood that this is the formula that I will use. Now the matter of fact is I'll just write it down. So clearance equals rate in. How much was infused? How much was given? 500 milligram. Don't forget, twice a day. So now I'll do 500 times 2 is what? 1000 milligrams. And the CSS is what? 1.4 milligram per liter. Please write the dosages as well, or the units basically. Okay, now it's just a matter of dividing. Okay, 1000 divided by 1.4, I get 714.29, let's say. The milligrams are gone. But this is what milligram daily, so every day, right? Don't forget again. See, I made the mistake of forgetting to write it correctly. Here I'm saying 500 milligram daily, twice and daily. So I multiplied by 2, so 1000 milligram daily. So what is the unit here? I will say that it is a liter per day. Now I will look. There's this 1 liter per day, and my answer is different, so no. The rest, okay, this one also is not the same. The rest is in hours, so let me try and convert it with hours. Don't panic, just convert it to hours. In a day I have 24 hours, so this means I'll just divide this number by 24. I got 29.76 ألا وهو 29.8 what? Liters per hour, because I divided by 24 hours. Is this answer the same B? 29.8 liters per hour? Yes, it is. So the answer is B, and you can see here the answer. Okay, so this is the answer right here. You can see the same thing that I have just explained. It's done. Okay, now, so this is the answer. Let's go to next question. Pause the video, solve it by yourself, and then we can solve it together. Okay, so Miss Smith, a 65-year-old woman with pneumonia, was given this drug, tobramycin. Okay, she was given 150 milligram intravenously. After 20 minutes, the plasma concentration was measured and was found to be 3 milligram per liter. Assuming there is no elimination of the drug, what is the apparent volume of distribution? So here they're asking for volume of distribution. What was volume of distribution? Again, here we're looking at volume of distribution. If you haven't watched the video of volume distribution, please look at the video. Okay, I've made a video previously, so do watch it. So how much is injected divided by the concentration, the CSS basically. This is the formula of the VD. How much was injected? 150 they're saying. They're saying 150 milligrams. Again, don't forget to write the unit. And what is the CSS, which is the plasma concentration here is mentioned, is 3 milligrams per liter. So you just do 150 divided by 3 is what? 50. This is cancelled liters. Do I have 50 liters? Yes. So the answer is C. This is the explanation. This is the answer. Okay? Pretty simple. Next question. Read it. Pause the video. Okay. So a 74-year-old retrieved mechanic is okay. So he is having a heart attack, and you decided to give them this drug intravenously, and this was how much you injected. So this is my rate in. And it started at 8 a.m. The pharmacological parameters, pharmacokinetical high is VD is this much, the clearance is this much, and half-life is this much. Wow, a lot of values. Let's see what they're looking at. Steady state, plasma concentration. So here I highlighted the numbers. I highlighted what do they want. Now I'll write the units just to make sure. Just write the information that I have. So rate in, how much was given intravenously was 1.92 milligram per minute. Then I have my VD is 77 liters. My clearance is 640 milliliters. My half-life is 1.4 hours, and they're looking for my CSS. Now, I can see that there's rate in, I can see that clearance. I remember right away my formula, that clearance equals to the rate in equals to CSS. Now I can just solve it accordingly, right? So now if I want to solve the clearance, I have clearance, I have my rate in, I just want my CSS. This is my pyramid again. This is my clearance, the CSS, my rate in. What are you gonna do? You're just going to do rate in, which is 1.92, or you can just do this basically. I'm just trying to make it easier. If you don't know how to rearrange equations, you can always use the pyramid. 1.92 again, please don't forget the unit, milligram per minute. I have written it here, you can look at it here. Divided by my clearance was what? It says 640 milliliter per minute. Divided, okay, you have your calculator right with you. 1.92 divided by 640, I get an answer of 0.003. What is this? Minutes by minutes is cancelled, so it's milligram per milliliter. So I can see everything here is with liters. So now this means I need to convert my milliliter to liters. Okay, how can I do this? I'll be releasing this just a second. Okay, so now 0.003 milligrams per milliliter, I need to convert it to liter. Now a lot of things, it's pretty easy, self-explanatory. What the thing is that a lot of people might confuse milliliter to liter. You'll be like, okay, it's divided by 1000, which I'm saying yes, it is correct, but here it's not 1 milliliter, it's the milliliter is below. Okay, do you understand here? So it's 1 over the milliliter, yani it's 1 over milliliter, it's not 1 milliliter. So in this case, what ends up happening is actually I have to multiply by 1000. So now I will end up having if you multiply this by 1000, it's literally 3.0 milligram. Don't forget the change in the unit, which is liters. It is what it is B. So the idea is, yes, milliliter to liter is 1000, but this is not milliliter. This is something, a number over milliliter. So what ends up happening is flipped. You're actually multiplying by 1000. Let's see the answer. The answer is B. Yes, it is. They told you the way you solve it. This is how they solved it. Okay, it's just a matter of conversion, the matter of identifying. Some people, because they give you a lot of values, the VD, they give you the half-life, you might be confused. And obviously, if you don't know the equation by heart, if you didn't understand the concept, you wouldn't be able to understand solve it, or be harder. Okay, now next question. I believe this is the last question. Okay, pause it. Okay, good. So a 78-year-old woman, blah blah, started. Okay, she has the initial dose is Dilget. This is my initial dose. How much was injected? The CEO obtained, so basically the CSS it is, or the concentration at steady state, or concentration at time 0, is this much. What is the volume of distribution? Again, volume of distribution is what we mentioned. This is the injected, how much is injected, divided by the CO, or the CSS basically. How much was injected? It says 0.25 milligram. Please don't forget the units. Divided by 0.05 milligram per liter. So now you're just going to be dividing 0.25 by 0.05. You'll get an answer of 5. This is cancelled, the milligram with the milligram, 5 liter. And the answer is E. Okay? That's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you so much. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, you understood some of the concepts. If you do have any questions or any other suggestions, please write them in the comments, and thank you very much.